How'd that make you feel? Giving a child his freedom.
Felt good.
You have been at this for 12 years.
My country, 'tis of thee.
Why are you doing it?
Sweet land of liberty.
Because God's children are not for sale. It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
For Homeland Security, you know we can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces.
And where my fathers died.
And this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
Land of the Pilgrim's
And yet somehow you have failed to bring me one real-world lead.
It's over, Tim. Close up and come back home.
So you quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring.
South of that river is all rebel territory. No one goes in.
What if this was your daughter?
Sorry, she's gone.
Hear that? That's the sound of freedom.
Sound of Freedom is one of those films that can legitimately change this world. So we want to ignite a fire in audiences and open their eyes to the dark reality of millions of children that need our help. Let's make this film a historic event and the start, the end of child trafficking. Theaters across this country are already selling out. Pre-order your tickets today, and you can send the message that God's children are no longer for sale.
It's Wednesday, 21 June, year of our Lord 2023. Thank you. You're here for the second hour of the evening edition of the War Room. I want to thank you. I'm here with Jordan, who is the co-founder, Jordan Harmon, one of the Harmon brothers.
Yeah, one of the many. There's like 35 of us.
35, one of the co-founders of Angel Studio. This, as we've gotten involved with this film, it has gotten a tremendous response. Huge premiere last night. You're going to Miami for one there. A response here today, I know, on Capitol Hill. Talk to us. I met with these guys 2 or 3 years ago, and they were finished the principal photography. They starting to edit, and I said when I just saw rushes and saw daily, I said this thing is so, the Sound of Freedom, the story of Tim Ballard is so powerful. I'm sure you guys will find a distributor. Yet this thing was suppressed for years. It took Angel Studios to step in here and really take the ball. You're the distributor of the film. You're marketing the film. Walk through, why is this more, and I got this last night at the premiere and then today, the buzz on Capitol Hill. Why is this more than just a movie?
Yeah, so I mean, honestly for us, we look at this film and, Alejandro says it, the director says it really well. He says, this for us is the start of a movement. Right? We want this to be a movement that can bring awareness to this incredibly disturbing topic of child trafficking, and so
child sex trafficking.
Child sex trafficking.
This is not for labor. Yeah. I mean, some of that may happen, but this is either child sex or even as Jim brought up, maybe even parts.
Horrendous things that are happening.
Very dark.
And so when we look at this film, we had actually known about the film for years, but Fox had originally had the rights, and then Disney acquired Fox, and for whatever reason they decided not to distribute it, and it took Eduardo a year to get the rights back, and then there was this miraculous moment about 3 months ago where Tim Ballard, we've been friends with him for a long time, he reached out to us and he said, guys, You're building something special. You've launched a theatrical division. Why don't you take on Sound of Freedom? And we said, we'd love to explore that and see what that looks like, but how likely is that even possible? He says, well, let me connect you to the producer, Eduardo. And within 5 days, we had pulled together Eduardo, Jim, us, all the principals.
You made the deal.
Wow. But it's unheard of. It's never happened. And then even crazier was we had this. And I don't want to get into the details of it, but there was this inspiration throughout the company that we felt that this movie needed to come out on July 4th, which for those who understand that,
Crazy.
July is the blockbuster month. You've got Mission Impossible, you've got Indiana Jones the week before, you've got all these massive
Well, it's always big summer movie weekend, but this weekend you've got the Tom Cruise and you've got 2 franchises. Right?
Massive franchises. And so everybody in Hollywood was saying, anybody who consulted us was like, you guys are crazy. You don't go, they first said we were crazy because when we did His Only Son at Easter is the third biggest time to release, it's summer, Christmas, and then Easter. And we picked Easter, and they're like, you guys, and then His Only Son ended up in the top 3 of the box office, and then people were like, how'd you do that? Well, there's this element where Angel is a very unique process in that even if I love a movie with all my heart, as executives and founders, we cannot greenlight a movie without the permission of the Angel Guild. That's the 100,000 investors.
Explain the guild.
Yeah, that's the investors in The Chosen. The people who help make that come about. The investors in Dry Bar, the investors in Teletwins, a kids series about freedom and economics. All of these investors and all of Angel Original projects are now the gatekeepers for what is an Angel Original or an Angel project. And so when we look at Hollywood has become the best storytellers in the world. There's no one as good at storytelling as Hollywood. And the problem is not so much the storytellers as it is the gatekeepers who dictate what stories are told. And so the
gatekeepers being the studios and the distribution people.
That's right.
How you're going to get it out to a broad audience and monetize it.
100%. And so what we want to do with Angel and what we're dedicating our life to is we want to create something that will allow for the stories that reflect light. That's our mission, is to tell stories that amplify light. That those stories, long after we're gone, that this company can continue on that trajectory, because we don't want to just create, Disney 2.0 or whatever you want to call it, right? And so in our mind...
You're saying there are other people out there who can do that. You want to do something
We want to do something that's very, very unique, and that our studio will always be telling stories that amplify light. And so that's why Sound of Freedom is so unique and so special, because it is a story that amplifies light in the most magnificent way. We define light as whatever is lovely, true, honest, noble, just, authentic, excellent. Those principles have to be followed. And Alejandro Monteverde, the director, I remember him telling us, he said, I intentionally, in every frame of this movie, no matter how dark the scene, had a sliver of light coming in. Every frame, because I wanted people to understand that this is about hope. This is about the light at the end of those dark tunnels. And so we are so grateful to be able to get this movie out in the world, to bring awareness and to give a voice to these children who have been voiceless for so long.
Go to angel.com/worm right now to get your tickets, and you should buy a Grunch on them. Here's why. Take people. We're trying to send a message. First off, this film and seeing it will change your life, as it did mine, because, as I've told people, this is not my line of country. But this is a scourge that has to be stopped. And particularly to know that in the United States of America, the greatest republic in the history of mankind, that we're the drivers of this because of the demand for child sex trafficking. It's just terrific. So that's why this film, Sound of Freedom, is a must-see. And take your friends, take your colleagues.
And it's important that you guys buy tickets today.
Yes,
because
we're trying to show the theaters that, hey, they're going to fill them up. This is the exhibitors, plus add more screens.
Yes.
Remember, you've got Indiana Jones, and you've got the Tom Cruise
Mission Impossible, the week before and the week after.
You guys are crazy. Because the theaters all book all those screens. So when you go to these multiplexes, the way you get the message out there is you have the big screens, and then you have some of these smaller screens, and that's where you need to book.
That's exactly
you
right.
guys, your target is 4,000
We are going for 3,000 to 4,000 screens, and we believe that the doors will be opened. We keep saying, something I've been saying to some people around the offices, it's requiring astonishing work, but we're receiving miraculous outcomes. It's miracles. And the doors are being opened, and the reason I think the doors are being opened is because Steve Jobs once said that the most powerful person on earth is the storyteller. And the stories that are being told today is what our culture and our world will look like in 20, 30 years. And so the reason Sound of Freedom is so important is because in 20, 30 years, child sex trafficking cannot be in our culture. It has to die.
And you're saying this is the railhead of how you make it die, because you're going to make this a mass movement.
You're going to make it a mass movement and give a voice to these children in such an incredible way. Again, it is. A lot of people go, man, it's probably going to be such a difficult movie to watch. And my wife, she's very sensitive about what content and media comes into our home, and we watched it together. And she said, man, that was difficult to watch, but it's even more difficult if I had not watched it and not felt that movement in my own heart to drive something in. And it might be as simple as you watch the film and your sphere of influence is your family and you take better care of your family and your kids. Or it might be that someone sees the film that has the ability to impact on a broader scale. But the only way that happens is if we can get 2 million people there opening week for the 2 million kids that are trafficked every year.
Here's one of the things about the film, and this is why you could tell that people didn't want this to come out. The quality of the film is like Missing or Taken or films like this. The quality of the film is as good or even better than the best of the Hollywood product. That's why I think the director is a genius. And to know the quality of that, it is about a dark topic, but you'll sit there like last night. People are mesmerized just about the story. Ballard's story is incredible. People have to understand that Tim Ballard was an agent of DHS. I mean, this was his job, and they talk about this balance of you have 5 agents on drug trafficking to every 1 agent on human trafficking. And Ballard, one of the key parts of the story is how DHS wanted to get off the mission. And really, Caviezel playing Ballard, you see that he's mission oriented, and that's the power of this movie. But clearly, for a host of reasons, people did not want this film until you guys got involved. People did not want this film in theaters.
Yeah, and I think that for us, we are looking at this and we're saying, that to your point, the storytelling of this is on par with any other film in the world. Matter of fact, it's powerful enough that if the awards were probably accurate to 100%, like there would be Oscars given to this film.
Yes,
it's just an incredible
like
masterpiece.
Exactly. Talk to me about the 35 Harmon brothers. How did you? Jordan is one of the co-founders. Of course, there's 34 others.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Angel, and particularly how you guys got started in Chosen.
Yeah,
right? We want to start because that has been such a cultural.
Yeah, so
I think it's a huge benefit to this film. When they called me up and they said we have a distributor, I go, who's that? It goes, the guys that distributed and were involved in Chosen. I go, yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think you're in good hands.
So there's 9 of us siblings. There's 6 boys, 3 girls. So not quite 35, but we're up there.
It just seems like it. Sometimes.
It just seems like it. But,
9 brothers.
There's 6 boys.
Brothers.
3 girls.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you think the brothers are impressive, wait till you meet the sisters.
Right.
It was about 2013. I was living with my wife in the basement, and my brother Neil, who's also a co-founder who you've met, was living upstairs, and with his family, and we had just been looking at the media landscape, and we realized that it was spiraling very quickly, and we didn't like what we were seeing, and so. We decided that
the content itself,
the media and the content was not reflecting what we wanted for our children and our families. And we all have kids. I have 5 kids. He has 10 kids. And so when we looked at that, we said, well, let's figure out a way to do something about this. And so we started with this idea that what if we could build an audience around skipping and muting content, because we knew parents would want the ability to skip and mute content that they found objectionable in their home. And so we started with that concept of building an audience around that, and then we launched a studio.
You mean you wanted a technological? You were
we're going to build a tech that people would subscribe to, and we'd build an audience around that.
So the family could sit there, and
that was called VidAngel.
It might be the Disney content, but they had the ability to take.
Yeah, they're like, I don't want to hear the F word, or I don't want to see this violent scene or this sex scene or whatever it is. And so we launched that, and it really started to blow up around 2015, and then Disney sued us in 2016. Disney, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, and Lucasfilms. And that was devastating and a blow to the heart.
They upon further review, they didn't think that was such a great idea.
They didn't love our business plan.
Mute this, dude.
But what ended up happening,
you knew you had struck a chord.
Yeah, and what ended up happening was we had to launch our studio a lot earlier than we were expecting to. But what also ended up happening is our audience came to us and they said, we love what you guys are doing, what you stand for. We want this to exist. And so they started donating hundreds of thousands. We had over, I think, $300,000 in 5 months, which sounds like a lot, but in a Disney lawsuit, that's about 3 weeks of legal fees, right? And so we decided right about that time that the Jobs Act had come out, which allowed for small companies to do what's called equity crowdfunding. And so we said to our audience, you know what? You're asking us to fight this. We're willing to fight it to the Supreme Court. We want to stand for what we believe in. We don't have the resources to do it. If you want to support us and you want to invest in VidAngel at the time, now Angel Studios, then you can invest, but you're probably going to lose your money. I mean, this is a long shot, but we're willing to fight it. And in 5 days, we raised over $10 million.
Wow.
And we took $5 million, and that's how we started Dry Bar and The Chosen. And then the other $5 million we used for legal fees. And so, obviously, Dry Bar Comedy now gets over 1 billion views a year and is the largest library of clean stand-up comedy. And then The Chosen, we had the honor of meeting Dallas Jenkins and his incredible vision around what he called the Shepherd at the time, and so. That we launched an equity crowdfund, helped them launch an equity crowdfund that funded season 1. And then the rest is history. The Chosen turned into this massive, over 130 million viewers that we've gotten it to worldwide. And it's been, it's on obviously the Angel app and the Chosen app, and it's on many streaming platforms. But the point of all this is going back to the core of our mission, which was we actually didn't really want to take on a show about Jesus first, because we didn't want people to look at us and say, you're a Christian studio. We obviously want to be faith friendly. We want to be, and any stories of faith can live in our environment, but we want to tell stories that impact the culture and are of the quality of anything else out there. And so when we
Jesus had other ideas.
Jesus had other ideas.
He had another idea.
So so that's and so The Chosen has been such a blessing. Dallas and his team have done such an incredible job.
I want to make sure people understand this. Given the structure of the industry, The Chosen it's miraculous, but it's miraculous through human agency.
Yeah.
The ability to pull together the quality of film, because that's as good as anything you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
To see the quality of the acting, the quality of the filmmaking, right? And the way you guys distributed it and got it out to an audience. That is like you took the best in Hollywood and from a standing start presented. I think it gave a lot of faith to a lot of, or confidence to a lot of filmmakers that haven't had a chance to get their product to market. Right? Yeah,
for sure. And our skill sets have been in business and marketing even more than they were film.
You didn't come from a film background?
We didn't have a film. I mean, to be honest, we didn't even come from a business and marketing background. We're Idaho farm boys. We grew up on a potato farm and dairy farm, and we worked for farmers and we learned to work, and we learned we didn't want to be farmers. But that's just a hard job. I mean, it's such a hard job. But that being said,
as
we
tough
decided
as Hollywood is, it's easier. It's easier.
Farmers' lives are hard. But that being said, we love stories. We loved hearing the stories from our mother of Roy and Walt Disney and what they did as entrepreneurs and the stories they told and the impact they wanted to have. And so the Chosen has given, and Dry Bar have given us the mechanism to build this incredible network of tens of millions and now 100+ million people who are rallying around stories that amplify light. And every story that comes into that network, our goal is that in 20, 30, 40 years, when we're gone, that our children and our grandchildren will have the stories that will not only amplify light, but will help heal the culture that we live in today.
When the Chosen started to become a thing, right? When it started to get hot, what was the lesson you guys took for there? Because obviously the odds were so long against this from the beginning.
Yeah.
Once it became not just a great work of art, but a kind of a cultural phenomenon, right? That Hollywood and all the powers that be were dismissive. This will never happen. In that moment when you realized it was not that you guys saw something early on and said this could be special, but when it actually became special out in the world, what was that moment like?
So that's a really, really awesome question, because there was multiple moments that led up to it. But I remember my brother Jeff telling me one of the most important moments was that he's one of the other co-founders. So he had this moment where the first 7 months of The Chosen, the first 4 episodes we launched, weren't actually doing that well. Now they were everybody loved them, but it was like pulling teeth to get anybody to watch them. And I remember my brother Jeff would invite people over to dinner, and then right after dinner he'd be like, okay, now we're going to watch 3 episodes of The Chosen. And they'd be like, what? And he's like, I've got a captive audience. You are sitting here. I poured my life into this. You are watching this series.
You got a free dinner, now you're going to watch. And, seriously.
Yes, seriously. And because we couldn't get people to watch it. But what we kept seeing is people on social media commenting and saying, I would love to watch this, but I don't know who you guys are, and I don't want to pay a subscription. I don't want to do X, Y, Z. And then the people would reply and say, hey, DM me and I'll send you the DVDs. It's amazing. And so there was this crazy idea. What if we can connect the people who want to watch this to the people who want to share it without them ever meeting? And so we decided to bet our entire company. And to be clear, we literally betting our entire company on this because during this time, we're in a Disney lawsuit. We are in Chapter 11.
People should know Disney are the absolute killers in Hollywood. When they come at you, they are killers.
They are killers. But that being said, we are in a Disney lawsuit, and we had filed, and we had learned, and we were getting throttled in California. I mean, then in that district, it was not doing us any favors.
I think that's called an away game.
It's an away game. We're not playing home court.
No, that's their home.
But we had this person who reached out to us, and he said, "You guys should file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy." And everybody's like, what? Like Chapter 11? And he said, no, hear me out. That's going to allow you to pull jurisdiction out of California and into your home court. And so we filed for Chapter 11. It gave us a year of protection. During that year, we had a trustee who was running the company. He was deciding if Angel Studios are going to liquidate and die, and go to Chapter 7, or if we were going to continue. And he came to us and he said, I'm going to study this out. I'm going to interview all you guys. I'm going to interview Disney. I'm going to figure out who the bad actor is, and I'm going to shove it down their throat. This is an atheist. He doesn't really, he's not really thinking about it. He just wants to do what's right. He was an honorable man. He comes back to our company after, doing his investigations, and he says, Disney's the bad actor. I'm going to shove it down their throat.
After his due diligence,
yes.
He came back and said,
he says, this is not about what they're saying it's about. This is about crushing competition. And so he comes to us, and he turns around, and he says, but in order for me to do this, I need you to generate with The Chosen and your other content at least this is about October, at least $1.5 million from November to December. Now, to put that in perspective, we had generated
Thanks, buddy.
He's like, if you don't, I have to liquidate everything because
you're not
gonna it's not going to work. And so he just said, but to put that into perspective, from January to October, we had generated $700,000 on The Chosen.
Yeah.
So it seems like an impossible feat.
In 60 days to do what you haven't done in the other 10 months.
That's right. And we launched out of a miracle this new free model where we gave our content away free. And we let people pay it forward for others to watch it for free. And it exploded. And we did almost to the dollar over $1.5 million.
Oh God, what a story.
And so the trustee comes and he says to the judge, he says, not only can Angel Studios repay the judgment that the jury gave them, they'll repay it over a 14-year schedule. And Disney goes, no. We want them to liquidate everything. You want them to bankrupt them. And everybody's like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like you're actually trying to recoup anything. That sounds very predatorial. And so that
like
shifted.
You don't like the competition.
Yeah. And so it shifted. It shifted drastically. And then COVID hit. They started losing $50 million plus a day. We were growing like a skyrocket. We ended up doing well over $47 million in revenue that year. And in September or October.
Go back. So the next year.
We did $47 million.
You did $700,000 in the first 10 months, $1.5 million. So you did $2.2 million. The next year you did $47 million.
Yes, yeah,
and so walk people through how you. And
now
this is a great business story.
Now The Chosen has grown to, and all of our projects have grown to well over $300 million. And so what ended up happening was you had this beautiful show that took off. Dry Bar saved our company when we were in desperate need, and then The Chosen saved our company when we were in desperate need. It hit just right, and now we are grateful that those two projects have built us the network where we can get stories like Sound of Freedom out to the world. And in 2020, we ended up settling with Disney because they were draining money, and they said, you know what? We don't want any lawsuits. Let's just get rid of it, be done with it. And we ended up settling for a little over $7 million.
Go back to The Chosen. When you first started The Chosen, the production, how did you fund the production cost to even get to the 4 episodes?
So we ended up,
you must have been looking into the abyss.
Yeah. So we ended up doing exactly what we did with our company, where we went to the crowd and we says, do you want this to exist? And if you do,
just on a script.
Well, we had that short film of 30 minutes that Dallas had put together on the Nativity, and we raised over $10 million for season 1 on a short film. And we've actually done crowdfunding for every one of our original projects. So, like, for example, Sound of Freedom, it had already been done, but we decided to take the same crowdfunding principles that allow us to build a community and get that grassroots effort going, we opened what was called a P&A crowdfund, where the crowd could come in and they could invest in the actual P&A so they could get a return.
P&A's what's the
prints and advertising.
That's the industry term really for the marketing dollars.
That's exactly right. And they raised over $5 million in less than 14 days for Sound of Freedom.
Incredible. We're going to take a short commercial break here. We're going to return. We got Jordan Harmon. He's on a tight schedule. They premiered the film last night in D.C., and I will tell you, it moved people. It was at the magnificent Bible Museum's theater, which is breathtaking. You're going to play in bigger theaters here in D.C. We can't announce that yet. They'll be in a couple of weeks. But I will say that this film took the town by storm. And people were very moved by it. It's got real momentum. Tremendous meetings the team had today up on Capitol Hill. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back to fit Jordan's schedule. We'll be back in a moment with Jordan Harmon, the co-founder, one of the co-founders of the of Angel Studios. Angel.com/forum. Go right now. I hope you're inspired. Get a ticket. Send a message to Hollywood. Be back in a moment.
To always keep you close, holding on to hope.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Jordan Harmon's with me, one of the co-founders of Angel Studios. Given that incredible story, two things. Number one, when you saw this film, I want to know your first impressions, because when I saw the clips they had, or the segments they had almost 3 years ago, I said the filmmaking here is extraordinary, but the topic is a tough topic.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell them, hey, Hollywood's not going to be, because at that time I think they were still at Fox. And I said, how did they approve the script? The first time you and your brother saw it, give me your impressions of what went through your mind the first time.
So the first time I watched this, I watched it on a laptop with my wife, and then we had to pause a few moments, during that film, because when you have children yourself, it is very difficult to. There's a line in the film where he says, "What if this is your daughter?" And I remember pausing and just, tears and emotions going through. And so I immediately knew that if God wanted us to, that we wanted to get this out. Now, obviously, it had to get through the Angel Guild. But the Angel Guild, those 100,000 investors of The Chosen and all of our other TV shows, they gave it one of the top scores we've ever seen.
Tell me about that. So you put it out to the Guild, and the Guild are just like studio heads. They all watch it, and then tell me what the response is.
Yeah, so anybody who's an investor in any of our projects or a subscriber to the Guild, you can download the Angel app, and inside there's a Guild tab. And it allows people to come see the projects that are in Angel's pipeline. And it could be concept pieces, it could be finished films, it could be pilot episodes. And those people are asked two questions. Does the story amplify light? And again, we define that as whatever is lovely, true, honest, noble, excellent, those principles. And then the second question we ask is actually called the Sean Ellis test. So Sean Ellis, if anybody's aware of the software Slack, is this B2B, it's this business software where people use to communicate with people inside their company. Well, in the early days of Slack, investors were experiencing some major fatigue as to I don't know what the business model is here. And so Sean says, hey, you know what? Let me go survey the customer base and see what we have here. And he asks them a very unique question. He says, if Slack didn't exist tomorrow, how would you feel? And he only gave them three options: very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, or not disappointed. He didn't actually care about when people said somewhat disappointed or not disappointed, because those aren't passionate people. He wanted to know how many people would be very disappointed if Slack didn't exist tomorrow. And 54% of people came back and said, we'd be very disappointed. So he goes to the investors and he says, we got to double down on this. We've got something special here. Well, lo and behold, a decade later, Slack sells for $27 billion. Right. And so we've used that similar question where we say, if this was never made into an Angel Studios original or an Angel Studios production or a film, how would you feel? Very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, or not disappointed? And you have to get well over 40% of people to say they'd be very disappointed just to be considered. And then if you want to go theaters... Hold
on. Walk me through that again. You have a cutoff. It has to be 40%?
40% of people have to say they'd be very disappointed. It means 40% of this massive group has to be very disappointed if this doesn't exist. And that's just to be considered.
You want the guild to be passionate about it. Just even to get it into the process.
That's right.
They're so time consuming.
That's exactly
People
right.
are saying the film business just is a time suck.
100%. And that's just to be considered. Now, to go to theaters, it's 60%.
Wow. You're saying you got to raise it up.
Yeah, because the effort is than streaming. And the Sound of Freedom got well over 70% of people saying we'd be very disappointed if this didn't exist. Of the Guild. And
want to see it in theaters.
That's right. And so there's this massive built-up demand where we already wanted to do this. We saw the film, we could feel it, and we could sense that there was something incredibly special here. Eduardo and Alejandro and their team, they are brilliant. Jim's acting is the best of his career.
Best.
And so when the Guild came in and said that, we said, we're going to dedicate every resource we have to get this out there. And then it was about just picking a date. And so we decided to do the
Okay, but let's go back to this. Because go to angel.com right now, support this film, /War Room, get your tickets. Here's why. This film is, in and of itself, as a thing itself, is very important. It's going to really have a movement. But also what Angel is doing is also a movement themselves. And I want to go to the next, I don't want to call it a kamikaze mission. But normally when studios have a slate of pictures, and people say, well, why do studios traditionally put out 12 to 18 pictures? One of the reasons is so the exhibitors got to pay them, right? Because they got another picture they're going to deliver. So the whole system is very locked in from the 1920s, when motion pictures really started. And that's why you've seen there really haven't been many new studios.
Not a lot of innovation there.
And not a lot of new studios since then. People have tried it, but over time it gets to be very tough. You guys are trying something radically different. Normally, I could go to any other studio and they would talk to me about a year out, particularly their summer, which the theater owners is the highest time of year we're going to sell the most popcorn, even more than Christmas or Easter. 100%. We're going to sell the most popcorn and have people come for multiple times and be bigger crowds. The studios are looking 9 months out. You've done this in
less than 3 months.
Less than 3 months. That, I would say, knowing the business and being in the business for 20 years, that is impossible. How did you convince the theater? Because the exhibitors, remember, the studio's different than the exhibitors. The exhibitors already booked their things out. And you're not just going.
Mission Impossible has been on that date for a year.
A year. And so is the Raiders, the
Indiana Jones.
The last week of September, maybe, when kids got to go back to school, or August. Not the 4th of July weekend. So how did you make a decision, get all the mechanics you need to release the film theatrically, and then go in and convince the theater owners that, oh, by the way, in your busiest time of the year, most profitable, can I have like 3,000 screens?
So, first of all, a lot of faith, because there were some inspirational moments within the company from multiple people who felt like Sound of Freedom needed to be a July 4th release. And so we had to go. Now we had to back that up with logic and say, how do we pull this off? Because faith can only get you so far,
freedom,
right?
Because you're saying this is a film at the end of the day about freedom.
We had to eventize that. It's about freedom. It's about freedom for these children. And so once we had decided on the date, one of the big reasons that we actually went with that is so there's a story back in, and I'm trying to remember the studio's name. It's Feature Films for Families, I believe. So they were getting their start. I believe it was them. And they were having some successes, and then they kind of bet their entire company on a single film called The Swan Princess. Mm-hmm. And they had announced that they're going into theaters with The Swan Princess. They're trying to go head-to-head with Disney.
I haven't heard of it, so I think that's a bad news for the studio.
It is bad news for the studio. And what ended up happening was Disney had Lion King, I believe, on a different slate before The Swan Princess, and then they went and extended it to take all the screens, so that ends of Swan Princess in that studio, and they ended up going bankrupt on that film.
People should understand, because the theater owners are said I get Disney with Lion King. I don't think I'm taking Swan Princess.
That's exactly
They're
right.
They're going to be in like the tiny screen.
That's exactly right.
The 20 multiplex
or almost no screens. Right. And so for us, we are a nimble startup company, and we had this feeling that if we can move very quickly and swiftly, that the opposition won't have time to adapt. And so we picked a date that no one had, and we had Sound of Freedom is a little bit of counter programming, that it's not exactly like Mission Impossible, and it's not exactly like Indiana Jones.
Your point is a lot of your competitors in the independent film business or whatever are not going to go up against Indiana Jones. So you're not going to see a lot of new releases.
100%. And so we went in there and we basically went into the theaters and we said, listen, here's why, and based off of our success with His Only Son in the Easter release, because they were thrilled to death with that. It got number 3 in the box office with like John Wick and Mario Brothers. It was lined up against a ton of blockbusters, and it did really, really well. We had built enough relationship with them, and they're rooting for us. They really are
the exhibitors.
The theaters are really
another good.
They want another great
from family
for family-oriented content, and so they're rooting for us. And they turned around and they said, "You know what? We want to give you the chance to do this." And our model is that we need people to show up to pre-sales to earn our way to more and more screens, to earn our way more and more theaters.
That's what 2 million tickets. 2 million relates to the kids that have been
trafficked every year.
Trafficked every year. So go to angel.com right now /War Room to get your tickets and to buy a grunch of them to take family and friends. When the theater owners, the exhibitors, who are fairly steely-eyed guys, right? This is a tough business. When you showed them the film, what was their response? Because these guys, and they may have a feeling this is something that people see, but they really are. They're hardcore. Are people going to come see this movie?
100%. And we were blown away when we looked at Cinemark and Regal and AMC and all these major theaters and showed it to them that every one of them was like, "You have our support."
It's great.
And so we need to give them we need to give them the courage to give us more and more theater screens, and to give the smaller players, the regionals and the local theaters, to give us screens. And so, like you said, if you're at angel.com/War Room, that is the critical call to action. Is that in the next 14 days, we've got to make a stronger statement than ever.
Because you're going to impress the theater owners, so it's going to be easier to get a family-oriented product of light in next time. You're going to put all the agencies and the marketing companies, and everybody deals with the actors, are all going to say, "Hey, these guys are players.
Yep.
These guys can get a tough picture out within 90 days." I've never heard of it I've been in this business since
especially not for a summer release.
In the late 80s at Goldman and in my own firm, we're one of the financiers in this business. I've never heard of a company taking a project on 90 days later having on 2,500 screens. I mean, it just shows you the determination. You guys won't take no for an answer. We were meeting with someone in the Capitol today, and he said a really powerful statement. He said, the key to success is persistence. It's not about being exceptionally smarter. It's not about being, the sharpest tool in the box. It's about being persistent and never giving up. And so for us, we looked at it and we just said, you know what? We know the marketing space really, really well. Part of our background, like I said, is in marketing. If you've ever seen like the Harmon Brothers agency, if you've ever seen like the Poopery ads or the Squatty Potty ads or the Purple Mattress that have hundreds of millions of views, really billions of views now, that's where our background came from, that agency, to really propel what we do. And so we're leveraging this type of marketing, kind of guerrilla marketing, into the theater space in a massive way. Tell me about last night, the premiere in first of all, the Bible Museum, perfect place to show it.
They were wonderful.
It's a magnificent facility. The crowd was incredible. And because during the week here, particularly, people were back voting late at night. They're arguing about these impeachment bills, all this. An incredible crowd. But then you were at Capitol Hill today, and all the furor that's going on. But people are making time because they've heard about the movie. They're going to see the movie. Some have seen snippets of it. But these guys are smart about knowing when something's hot. So tell me about Capitol Hill today.
Yeah, so I think the coolest part about Capitol Hill today is these guys, they're so busy. You're busy. We're all busy. Like, the fact that you've taken so much time to help us with this film is just remarkable. And so we're all busy. But, everybody has, their chief of staff or their assistants that are supposed to come in and let them know, hey, it's time to come out. And time again today at the Capitol Hill, we'd be meeting with someone and someone would be like, hey, you got to come out for a vote. And they're like, give me a minute. They wanted to hear and understand. And we showed them, obviously, the new trailer that you showed to your audience today that you released. And so it's this truly is resonating across the board. And it should. We should all be united on our children and how much they mean, because we always say the children are the future, right? Well, we've got to unite around this, because if we can't unite around this, I don't know what we can unite around.
Well, the shocking thing about first off, I think people, and I don't want to give too much of the film away, because it's, like I said, it's made as a Hollywood thriller, right? And the things are revealed as you go on. And I think that's one of the reasons the theater owners said, hey, this movie is as good as anything Liam Neeson's been making, or better, much better. It's the shocking factor, number one, that Tim is actually a government agent that's kind of pulled off the case, and then you're sitting there going, whoa, whoa, whoa. The second is that, and what still gets me, is that the United States is the driver of demand here. That this is
number one
consumer of this, and that is shocking. And I think if we can unite around that, and Eduardo was here today to talk about how we work together with Mexico to shut down the supply side. But to shut down the supply side, you've got to get to the demand side. Is
100%.
That so tell me, when you say this, you want this to be part, the release of this film, to get the muzzle velocity out there, to start a movement. What does that mean to you?
So the beauty of storytelling is that, I can't remember who said it, but they said if I want to influence a society, and I have to choose between politics and art, I'm going to choose art.
It was Plato.
It was Plato. Yep. Okay. Yes. Thank you. I'm glad you remembered.
You're in the war room, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
Although Eduardo dropped that on me today, so he's good too.
Based on all these books in here, you've got some reading you've done. But the point is that.
But it's important. Players have had to choose art or politics to control society.
I'm going to choose art. And so when we look at where society is and really the illness that's in certain parts of society, and it's there are a massive amount of the unheard and the neglected part of the United States and the world, and we need to fill that gap with meaningful stories that are going to amplify light into the darkest places of the world. And so with Sound of Freedom, it's going to... It's a movie that causes you, when you get done, to say, what can I do? How can I help? And what I would encourage people to do is, every one of you, it's probably going to be individual and unique, right? It might be something as simple as just sharing word of mouth, or paying it forward so someone else can watch the movie for free. Or, maybe you have more resources to help an organization that's tackling these problems. And so, as the awareness lifts,
or talk about it at the barbecue the next night.
That's exactly
and get people
right.
Just if it moves you. First off, one of the first reactions you're going to have is you're going to sit there and go, "How did I not know what this was going on? How am I not aware of this on a problem that is Jim said today globally, I think it's $155 billion. It's $35 billion in the United States. How is this thing so big?" And happens, and you have these agents and on these complex assignments, and it's clearly some sort of industrial structure on the supply side. How could this go on and not know anything about it?
Yeah, and that's where I think this film comes in and fills that void. Worldwide, I think this film has the potential to truly bring that awareness. And there's this saying that says, "All ships rise with the rising tide." As Sound of Freedom rises and the awareness lifts, the globe is going to hear that, and they're going to help the organizations, and they're going to rise with it in terms of resources and abilities. And so that's our goal. Our goal is to bring awareness, to mold the culture, and to help us wake up to this atrocity.
Okay, time for action. Use your agency. You have people that will take action and do things. The guys at Angel have just done an incredible job. So make sure you go to angel.com right now /war room. Get your tickets. Take people with you. Become a force multiplier, because that's the only way this thing's going to get there. Real quickly, how do people get, if they want to become part of your other aspects, the guild, where do they go? How do they see future product? How do they see all of that?
Yeah, so just you can either go to angel.com, or you can download the Angel app on any of your major devices. And inside the Angel mobile app, you can actually sign up and subscribe to the Angel Guild to help influence what are the stories that will be told into the future inside of Angel's ecosystem. That is such a powerful way for your voice and your values to be heard. Because, again, no matter how much I, as a founder, and my brothers and as executives, that we want something to come through into our ecosystem, the Angel Guild has to give us the thumbs up first. And so that's a critical thing you can do. Again, angel.com, also download the Angel app. And we are so grateful for, obviously, Steve and the voice that he's giving to the voiceless.
Wow.
And we're grateful for your audience, and that they are showing up in droves to buy tickets and to help support this incredible
when
film.
Caviezel and Eduardo got back to me and said, "Hey, the film's going to come out theatrically in the summer on over 2,000 screens," I go, "Come on, guys!" And they go, "No, we're working with the Angel guys." I said, "The guys did The Chosen." I go, "I'm in. I'm all in." They're amazing. You guys are fantastic.
Thank you, Steve.
Tell the other 5 brothers. I can't wait to meet the sisters. They're the killers, right?
They are incredible.
Angel.com /war room. We're going to end with the trailer, and then I will be back here live 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. A lot going on. See you then. That was awesome.
How'd that make you feel? Giving a child his freedom.
Felt good.
You have been at this for 12 years.
My country 'tis of thee.
Why are you doing it?
Because God's children are not for sale. It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
We're Homeland Security. You know we can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces. And this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
And yet somehow you have failed to bring me one real-world lead.
It's over, Tim. Close up and come back home.
So you quit your job and you go and rescue those kids.
Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring.
South of that river is all rebel territory. No one goes in.
What if this was your daughter?
So, she's gone.
Hear that? That's the sound of freedom.
Sound of Freedom is one of those films that can legitimately change this world. So we want to ignite a fire in audiences and open their eyes to the dark reality of millions of children that need our help. Let's make this film a historic event and the start, the end of child trafficking. Theaters across this country are already selling out. Pre-order your tickets today, and you can send the message that God's children are no longer for sale.